Okay, welcome. Thank you very much for clicking on. As an antique dealer, one of my bread and butter items, or one of my staple items that I tend to look for are paperweights. These fascinating objects are not just beautiful, they're full of artistry, history and variety, which makes them a very collectible and very in-demand object. Now, while we associate the origins of glassmaking with the Romans and the Roman Empire, the small objects they created that share modern traits with what we would class as modern paperweights weren't actually used to hold down paper. The concept of the paperweight actually is credited to the 19th century to French glassmakers such as Baccarat and Clichy. It soon then moved into Europe and in England, producing examples such as the dump from waste glass at the end of the day, sometimes with sulphite figures and things inside. Now, given the rarity and the value of some paperweights on the market today, it is very important that they're treated with extreme care. Now, this ensures that they don't get damaged and protects your investment. In this video, we're going to look at my best practices for cleaning, storing, displaying, photographing, anything we can to do with paperweights that I think may help you. Now, paperweight values. Now, paperweights start off at around £10 for modern Chinese examples, and they go all the way up to a couple of £1,000 for a real nice Clichy or Baccarat or St. Louis paperweight. You've got plenty of mid-range paperweights such as Caithness, Perthshire, Whitefriars, Old English. There are loads and loads of really good quality paperweights on the market now. Now, if anybody wants to know how to identify Chinese paperweights in comparison to Scottish or Murano, Millefiori, if you like, I do have an article in my blog page on my website antiquesarena.com that you can go to and have a read on how to identify a Chinese paperweight versus a quality Murano or Perthshire or something. Now, some of the paperweights you're likely to find at car boot sales are, Old English Millefioris, glass dumps, Victorian dumps with sulphide designs, Scottish weights from Perthshire to Caithness, John Deakins, Clichy, Baccarat. These are just some of the names and producers. Now, I've purchased a Clichy paperweight in Splot Market for £1. It was a beautiful spaced Millefiori paperweight. Paid £1 for it, sold it for close on £500. These paperweights do come out on the market and they do demand a high price. Now, damage and restoration within paperweights is no different to damage within any antiques. The rarer the item, the more people will accept damage. However, the minute you see anything damaged, proceed with caution. Now, with paperweights, people will have them polished to have bruises removed. They will have them polished to remove scratches. They may even have them recut, but it will affect the final value at the end. As long as you know that when you take it into consideration when you're buying, you're okay, or if you're buying for yourself, it doesn't matter. But restoration costs can get quite expensive, and the final return isn't going to be what it would be for an unrestored example. Now, what I would say is there are many restorers out there. I used to use Cymru Crystal. It was a little crystal glass factory in Aberbargoed in South Wales, and they used to polish my paperweights or recut any chips out of glasses, things like that for me, and he was very reasonable. But if you're going to learn to do it yourself, I suggest you start on modern Chinese pieces, modern Chinese paperweights. The good thing about modern Chinese paperweights is this: it allows anybody to collect a beautiful paperweight in the market. Now, don't confuse a modern Chinese paperweight with a Chinese white, which is still desirable and can pull £50 or £100 for an old Chinese 1930s Chinese white paperweight. That is basically a paperweight on a white base that they've painted a design into and then cased. That's the Chinese whites. Modern Chinese paperweights, some of them are beautiful, but they don't have the same quality and refinement of a Perthshire or Whitefriars or Clichy. But if you're looking to get into the market and you are on a budget, then modern Chinese paperweights are as good as any. Now, storing your paperweights, I can't emphasize to you how much I'm against people just putting their paperweights into a drawer or into a box unwrapped up. You will get tiny micro bruises and scratches and wear on your paperweights, and that is severe damage. Wrap each paperweight individually in soft tissue paper and a bit of bubble wrap to prevent it from shifting around and bumping next to each other. Use strong containers. Make sure you have strong plastic containers, not these clear brittle ones that are going to collapse, where your paperweight's going to be smashing together and rolling around the floor. Clear labelling and cataloguing means you don't have to rummage through paperweights looking. If you know what paperweight's wrapped, what box they're in, then you can limit unwrapping them to when you need to. Avoid high and low temperatures. Now, I don't know if you remember a video I shared in my shop. I had a glass. It was a form of a paperweight, but vase, paperweight, whichever way you want to put it, but it was more like a paperweight. And it was on a shelf in my shop. And it used to get really hot in the back room in the daytime and really cold in the nights. And I came in one day and the vase had exploded. And I put it on CCTV and I actually watched the vase explode and just fall off the shelf. Half fell off the shelf, half stayed on the shelf. So avoid high and low temperatures. So don't put them next to radiators and things like that. Make sure if they're on display or stored, they're on flat surfaces. Don't put them on their sides. You don't want them rolling around, bumping into each other or being able to be knocked over. Now, if you're displaying your paperweights, the biggest avoidance has to be do not put them on your windowsill. I can't tell you how many people have said to me they used to display the paperweights on a windowsill, and at least 2 people that I know have had fires in their homes because of the magnification effect. Did you ever as a kid hold a magnifying glass on a bit of paper and start a fire? That's exactly what a paperweight will do. If you put them in a window and the sun's beaming down through the window, it will use magnification and start a fire in the carpet, on the curtain, on the settee. Don't display your paperweights in direct sunlight. Furthermore, if you put your paperweights in the window, they can get extremely hot through the sun, and then come nighttime they can cool fast, again causing damage, internal fractures, internal cracking, explosions. It can happen, trust me, it really can. If you're going to display them, use display stands or display cabinets, especially if you have pets like cats or small children that play ball in the house. Now, some people have shared some ingenious ways of displaying their paperweights. Some have them in cabinets on little paperweight stands so you can just see the face. But whatever you do, make sure they're safe and they're on stands. If you're going to put them anywhere on counters now, make sure cats and children are not going to knock them over, especially at the price of them. Use adequate spacing. Don't use sunlight, as I've already explained to you. Use artificial light. It will also keep the heat down. If you use artificial light, they will look amazing. Space them out right, and you can enjoy the beauty of the paperweight without building up heat or potentially causing a fire. Now, cleaning your paperweights, I would suggest you put a plastic bowl. If you've got a porcelain sink or something like that, you put a plastic bowl. Well, I would suggest putting a plastic bowl into a sink anyway, and wash them in warm soapy water with a soft cloth or soft sponge, and wash them one at a time. Paperweights can get slippery when you're washing them. They are glass. The last thing you want to do is drop it into a porcelain sink, where it's going to bruise, chip, crack, or even damage your sink. You don't want other paperweights in the bowl that they can bump up against, or you could drop it onto and lose hundreds of pounds worth of paperweights. I tend to have a towel on the countertop at the side so they don't slide around on the water or anything. I literally take a paperweight out once it's washed, sit it on the soft towel, and then wash another. And I'll stack them on the towel so they can't slide around or bump into anything. Use a mild soap, and certainly don't use chemicals, and a soft sponge or soft brush. Dust in with soft brushes or soft cloths again, and if you can, avoid using bare hands to handle them. If you can, you wear a nice pair of cotton gloves, because the oils and dirt off your hands will get onto the paperweights. And whilst you can clean glass paperweights, the cleaner you can keep them, and the less you have to wash them, the less chance you have of destroying them or damaging them. With regards to if you are a dealer and you want to take the best photographs you possibly can with paperweights, especially with regards to Millefiori or anything with a design you want to really capture. Now, what I used to do in my early days was I'd have someone hold a sheet of paper over the top of a lampshade, turn the lamp on so the light was just coming through the piece of paper, and you'd have the paperweight sitting on top of the lamp, and I would come directly over it and take the photograph. And you'd have the best photograph of the Millefiori in the pattern you'd ever imagine. These days, I believe you can buy light boxes where the light comes from underneath, and then you can take the photograph, and then obviously the normal photographs in your light intent. But if you can get something where the light comes from underneath with a diffused light, for taking photographs of Millefiori paperweights, especially Perthshire paperweights, things like that, then believe me, the photographs are just truly spectacular. And then the rest of the paperweights, then, as long as it shows the paperweight and the details, you need that one paperweight, because the photograph is what sells your paperweights. And the more beautiful the photograph, the more money you're going to get for the weight. Anyway, hopefully there's a few tips in there. Certainly don't put them in the window. Photographing them, use a underneath light source, and displaying them, make sure they're out of reach of pets and children, and storage, make sure they're wrapped up. I can't tell you how many times I've bought job lots from auctions, right, and they literally put a bit of paper on the bottom, chuck all the paperweights in, and then a bit of paper on the top, and they get to me and there's bruises all over. Total waste. You lose hundreds of pounds, because the minute there's a bruise on the paperweight, the value's halved. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, please go across to antiquesarena.com. I have multiple articles there designed to help you, especially the one on the Chinese paperweights. And if you like the video, please like, comment and share to help the channel. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.